it's just a void.
So we are in front of a micro center in Brooklyn. It is in a really weird area I've actually never been to called Industry City, which kind of looks like a really, really bad anime skyline. There's like smokestacks and like a building with no windows. And the micro center appears to be in the same building as a prison. All right.
Okay. Micro center. Okay, do you feel it? Do you feel it? Just listen to that. Listen to that.
Yeah, it's the hum. The hum is what I was looking for.
But let's smell it. Smell it.
Best Buy smells like an old video store in the bad way, where this smells like an old video store in the good way. Okay, here we are.
Wow. Oh, right here. Oculus Quest 2. Okay. Now available. Oh, they call it a Meta Quest now. Packaging will continue to carry the Oculus name and logo during the transition to our new branding.
Oh, I love when branding transitions. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm waiting to buy my Oculus. That's what I'm doing right now.
From Campside Media, I'm Bijan Stephen.
And I'm Ryan Broderick.
And we are AFK.
The show where we go outside so you don't have to.
AFK is an experiential show that's about the people who make the internet. The ones behind the memes you share, the phrases that cycle in and out of your vocabulary, and possibly even the things you believe.
Each episode will take you on a journey through the internet, and sometimes beyond it, to better understand things that are happening online. And most importantly, why they're happening.
Right, because the why is important. That's the whole point of the show. And this week, we're traveling to the metaverse. It's everywhere right now, thanks to people like Mark Zuckerberg, but it's not actually new.
That's right. It's actually been around since 2003, when it was called Second Life.
Right. Second Life. It was created by Philip Rosedale, who got rich off of some video chat software, and then created this thing that was the first virtual open world.
We wanted to try to figure out what the future could look like, or more importantly, should look like. And we wanted to learn some lessons about that through people who've been on Second Life since the beginning.
Right, yeah, it's been like 20 years and they're still there. But first, we need to know what people think the metaverse is. So, we went to a mall in Brooklyn, in a former factory, and this is what we heard.
Oh, we also stumbled across like a weird statue to a fictional character, which felt very appropriate for this whole episode.
Oh yeah, there he is.
What in the world? Why? But he's not real. It's a statue of Captain America, and it says, hometown pride, and the quote, I'm just a kid from Brooklyn. But he's not a real person. Wow, I really could not have come up with a better metaphor for the metaverse. I will say, it is a nice statue.
But it's also, this is a physical monument to a thing that doesn't exist.
Yes, that's what's blowing my mind right now. Wow. But you know what's also crazy is, if there was like some sort of apocalyptic event and like people in the future found this, they might think he was real. So basically, our main question is, what do you think the metaverse is? Have you heard about it?
It's something that Facebook presented, right? It's a virtual world where you can live both physically and digitally.
Do you think it sounds good or bad?
Just I don't understand it that much. I don't know how it would work for me.
Do you know what the metaverse is?
I have an idea of what the metaverse is. It's basically like a continuation of a Second Life, like a type of concept where you can have your own home, you can have real estate property, you can live your own life, you can meet people virtually. So theoretically, you could live your entire life there by being patched in.
Do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing?
I am not a fan of the metaverse.
I also think that it means an alternate reality, kind of a way of escapism. I don't know. I don't really trust the idea behind it. Like, it's a cool concept. I'm someone who doesn't particularly love being on social media all the time anyway, and I think it's a really great way for people who maybe don't feel comfortable in reality getting lost in kind of this fake alternative world And I could just see that being kind of a detriment.
So that was bleak.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of cute though, like, but in a bleak way. I did like how people were kind of terrified of it, but also didn't want to stop talking about it, which I found interesting.
I think everyone had sort of an emotional reaction to it, which does make sense, right? Because like, you know, we've been bumping up against this idea that we have virtual lives. And I think, you know, the metaverse as Facebook presents it is like, I think probably the most corporatized version of that.
I think people like to pontificate about what they could do in virtual reality, but they're also absolutely terrified that Mark Zuckerberg's going to watch them do stuff in virtual reality.
But he will, though.
Of
That's
course he
true.
will. Of course he will.
Like, I mean, we know he created Hot or Not, right? Like a website like that, a website to surpass Hot or Not.
I don't want him to watch me do things with my headset on, you know? I don't want him to have scans of my body.
I'm so excited for him to have scans of my body. All right. I think it's clear that some people have an idea of what the metaverse is, but nobody really knows. It's still being defined.
We wanted to try to figure out what it was, so we decided to find someone who's been writing about it for 20 years.
Wagner James Au is the author of Making of Second Life and Game Design Secrets, and also the founder of New World Notes, which is the longest running metaverse news and culture site.
Talking to him was kind of wild because I guess I just never thought about the idea that there was someone in Second Life documenting the whole thing. But then once you start to think about it, you're like, of course there's a local newspaper for Second Life. Why wouldn't there be?
Well, there's not local newspapers for real life anymore. So that's why.
That's true. Yeah. It's nice that like the people who are role playing as giant dragons online, they have proper local journalism. The rest of us don't have it though. And so I guess where I would love to sort of start is, when did you find Second Life?
I found Second Life in 2003. I was a freelance journalist at the time, writing for Salon.com and Wired Magazine, places like that. Writing about kind of upcoming MMOs, you know, massively multiplayer online games, and wrote about kind of the idea of, instead of us going into an MMO and fighting dragons and leveling up our character, what if the users just took the tools and created their own experience? I was called over for a demo by Linden Lab, the company behind Second Life. They were still in closed beta at that point, and so they showed me what they were creating, or rather what the user community was creating, and I was just kind of blown away and also impressed by the founder, Philip Rosedale, who gave me the demo. As we were talking, it came out as an opportunity of, why don't you write for us?
That's amazing.
What was the first thing that you realized was like different when you went in for the first time, when you logged on by yourself and you're like, okay, I'm going to do this journalism thing now?
Just how kind of a crazy patchwork, mishmash, sort of lucid fever dream Second Life was versus any other online game experience I'd had before, because it's created by the users. One of the very first people I met had this beautiful mansion that she created by the sea, a beautiful virtual mansion with a monorail that took her from the mainland to her house. And as she was talking about it, she just kind of casually mentioned she built that while she was homeless in real life.
Whoa.
Because she was squatting in an abandoned apartment building in Vancouver. And that was kind of her escape from that. She had literal drug users, next door, getting high and pounding the walls. And she's a really talented hacker, so she figured out how to get a wireless connection through a coffee can and found an exposed power line to get her power to her laptop. And that's how she was in the virtual world.
That's like the most cyberpunk thing I've ever heard. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I feel like we've been throwing around the word metaverse, and I'm curious, like what to you is the metaverse? Yeah,
it's a vast virtual world that has user content creation tools and avatars that's how people express themselves, and has a connection to the real life economy, usually through a ability to make money and exchange money through a virtual currency. And also has a connection to real-life technologies, say like you could hook it up to a robot or other types of technology. And really that definition, I'm just basing it directly on the novel Snow Crash, which first conceived the idea of Neil Stephenson did. It's the conception that a lot of companies, including Linden Lab, drew directly from when they built their own platform.
So when I'm going to take it you saw Mark Zuckerberg's like promotional video unveiling the metaverse and Horizon.
Oh yeah.
As someone who's spent so much time in Second Life, someone who knows the kinds of people that are using these projects and these platforms before the corporations got interested, how did you feel like seeing the like sexless blob people of the conference call Weverse that they launched? Like did it feel strange?
I was very amused and somewhat hopeful that this mainstream awareness would help bring this concept kind of more into mainstream sort of circulation. It is mainstream in the sense that just using that definition I mentioned, that it is already quite large. I'd estimate about 500 million monthly active users of people who are in one metaverse platform or another. And then so what Meta was doing, what Zuckerberg was doing, was kind of affirming it to sort of the outside world that doesn't think about these things, except maybe like if you're a parent and you see your kids in Roblox, which is sort of a metaverse platform for kids. I was just also kind of astounded at what his version of a metaverse would be. And like you were saying, very kind of oddly sexless and oddly sort of corporate. Because one of the people who drove Meta's metaverse strategy early on is Corey Andraka, who was the founding CTO of Second Life. And after he left Second Life, he ended up at Meta, and he helped with the acquisition of the Oculus headsets. But I guess he's not at Meta anymore, and I guess there's a new generation that doesn't have any conception of any of it.
Okay, I feel like we have to address the elephant in the room. Do you see cryptocurrency having any place in a metaversal future, as you would say?
Well, to put it in technical terms, fuck no. But I should probably not drop an F-bomb.
What service is doing the metaverse the best right now? Like, where is our best metaverse platform?
Yeah, who do we need to like kind of bet on, I guess?
Yeah. I mean, right now, I think VR chat is the most impressive. It's interesting. It doesn't get anywhere near the coverage as Meta, but it's quite large. It's the company doesn't say, but it's probably about 10, 20 million active users. And just the openness of the platform just allows just an insane amount of creativity built on top of creativity. You see that virtuous circle, and that's what a lot of the activity is. And that's I use that as a real rule of thumb, is if you see the community creating content for free, basically to benefit the other users and to kind of show off their skills and creativity and passion, that's when you're going to see a healthy metaverse platform. So that's doing really well.
Yeah, Wagner really knows his stuff, man. So we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, Ryan's going to review the Meta Quest 2 headset. And then, since Wagner spoke so highly of it, both of us are going to have a little adventure in VR chat. So stick around.
Spoiler alert, I did get very nauseous using it.
Okay, welcome back.
So I wanted to find out what it was actually like for a person who wants to try out the metaverse in 2022.
Why? You didn't just do it for the podcast, right?
I did just do it for the podcast. I mean, I don't want to be too negative here, but I am struggling still to imagine a scenario where I'm wearing this thing regularly. And in fact, after like my first week and a half using it, it's now kind of collecting dust. I think I've used it once this week. But it is an interesting thing, and it's an interesting way to kind of better understand, I think, what Mark Zuckerberg's trying to do, which is try to make it cool to put a dumb headset on your face and then move your arms and legs around like an idiot. Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's do a quick rundown here. So in terms of the price, not so bad. It's like comparable to a Nintendo Switch. And in terms of the games, they're also about comparable with a Nintendo Switch. You're looking at like $40 to $50 for a game. The difference, though, between something like a Nintendo Switch and an Oculus is that the Nintendo Switch has games that you can play for many, many hours and experience lots of new things. Whereas with the Oculus, I sort of ran out of stuff to do with a couple games pretty quick. I will say Beat Saber, incredibly fun, but you have to buy a lot of songs to keep going. I did drunkenly at one point buy the Linkin Park pack, which was pretty good.
That sounds pretty fun.
It was pretty fun, yeah. It was also interesting, though, to try to use an Oculus with other people. So my girlfriend and I, we had an evening where we took turns on Beat Saber, and I kind of hooked it up to a TV in a really janky way with an iPad, which had some pretty bad lag. And you also couldn't turn the sound on in the TV because the lag meant that the song on Beat Saber was playing in 2 different times, which was really annoying. So there's really no social aspect with someone else in the room.
Okay, you put the headset. You put the headset on. What is it like in there?
You put it on, and you're basically in a really lame looking chalet kind of place. But then there's a floating browser window, more or less, and you can go to the App Store and you can download stuff, and it starts to feel kind of like a computer. But it does take some really weird adjustments, and also the system it uses, which is called a Guardian, which is where you sort of trace the room that you're in so you don't trip over your couch, is pretty janky. But I will say, when you're in it and you get into that flow state and you're hitting stuff and it's vibrating and you forget that you're wearing a headset, you forget that you're in VR, and then you take it off and you feel extremely nauseous, or at least I do.
No, but it's very funny that you mentioned video games, because I do think that was kind of the original vision for the metaverse.
A video game?
A video game. Or at least maybe what it is that we've come to understand a virtual world that we can live in as a video game. That concept is just video games to us.
The only problem is that, when you're playing a video game really intensely, your hands start to sweat. But when you're playing a VR video game very intensely, it is the grossest face sweat feeling I have ever felt in my life. And I played football as a kid.
Yeah. Okay. But look, I think the real thing here with the VR headset is it's kind of antisocial, but it is also kind of cool. I
Yes.
feel like I see the possibilities of virtual worlds.
I do too. And that's why you and I, we wanted to meet each other in a virtual world, both wearing our helmets in our respective gamer nests. I will say I've spent a lot of time writing about weird stuff that weird people do on the internet. Going into VR chat for the first time felt like I was inside of the internet in a totally disorienting and kind of magical way. I really enjoyed it, even though I also kind of hated it.
Imagine going to a place where you don't really speak the language, but people are insulting you constantly.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're taller than you somehow. All of them. And the ones that aren't are just children. I don't know. It's a lot.
A lot of big, muscular Winnie the Pooh avatars. That's what I saw. Can I shrug with this? Do you see me shrugging?
Yeah, you're shrugging.
Oh, okay, cool.
Am I shrugging? I'm shrugging.
Yeah, actually, you're kind of shrugging, and it looks like you're looking at your own body.
Yeah, because I was like, what do I look like down here?
Yeah, this is pretty cool.
But I can get down.
Are you on the floor right now?
I was.
Okay,
Look,
wow.
I'm jumping now. Whoa.
Yeah, this is me.
Oh, you jumped 10 feet in the air.
Yeah.
Okay, let me see if I can get up there
Are you jumping with your body or the button?
with my body.
Oh, you gotta use the button.
Is it? Ooh. Whoa, I hate that.
Yeah, it makes me kind of sick when I do it. But... Oh, okay. There's this virtual nightclub called the Black Cat. I was in there the other day. It's super weird. Do you want to go in?
Yeah. I love that it's just a Thursday. We're just going into a nightclub.
Yeah, you should see it has 2,000 people in it. There's usually some wild stuff happening. I'm in the bathroom with a giant robot named Dancing Monkey.
Okay, I'm going to the bar. Just meet me at the bar, bro. This guy's chasing me around. He said, "Fuck you too." I just ran away. I'm realizing just how difficult it's going to be to interact with people. What are the norms in VR? I'm getting out of this world. Let's find another one. Oh, this is different. Oh, there's a naked. I saw my first naked person. It's a naked, sexy Naruto.
There's an incredibly jacked Among Us walking around.
I've never felt older than I.
Yeah,
right
I
now.
wish I understood any of this.
Well, that was fun, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I enjoy using the Oculus, the thing. Like it was really fun to like be in a purely virtual space and experience it kind of physically, because I think that's basically the whole thing with VR, right? Like you are putting the full internet on your head and you're in there.
Well, I got to ask. We've been talking about the metaverse this whole episode, but where did the word even come from?
So I think to understand the metaverse, you have to understand the book Snow Crash by Neil Stephenson, which came out in 1992. It's really interesting because like the book is super entertaining. I really enjoyed it, but like the conception of a person in purely virtual space is evocative enough that it's inspired a generation of programmers. Like this is the kind of thing where it's like people like the depiction of space, of virtual space in Snow Crash so much that they tried to make it themselves.
Now, forgive me if I'm wrong, but in Snow Crash, isn't the metaverse a bad thing?
Maybe. Stevenson's vision for the metaverse, which again, he made up the word. It's this totally new thing. Was like, okay, this is a place where you can go that's kind of like the real world. You can kind of do the same things you can do in the real world, except you can be anywhere. And it's just funny because like in his metaverse, people buy plots of land. Like they try and get into this club called the Black Sun.
What's going on in that club? Is it like a sex club?
No, it's like cool hackers.
Oh, like a Matrix club? Like
kind of? Not really. It's very sedate on the inside, but it's funny because like Stevenson describes like a line to try and get in. Like I think the thing I want to emphasize is like Stevenson's metaverse is a place where you can like ride 900 miles an hour on your motorcycle because there's no friction, but also a place where you can't teleport into a location because it would ruin the illusion. It's funny because the metaverse that we have now and the metaverses that we've gotten kind of like they play with those rules in a very interesting way.
Well, I think that's like a really interesting aspect of this, and one that you and I have sort of run into throughout the reporting for this episode, which is that you imagine these virtual spaces being anarchic and crazy, but as we've dug deeper, it turns out that like a lot of people who maintain these things really do care about having certain rules to make sure they don't spin out of control, which I find very fascinating.
Yeah, and both in the content moderation sense, but also in the sense that like every space like needs rules. Otherwise, you don't know how to interact in that space. It's interesting because it kind of takes us to Second Life, a place where like the rules are different anywhere you teleport to.
Before we dive into Second Life, I wanted to kind of get a sense of what you need in terms of hardware to build the metaverse. And we ended up speaking to someone who I found really fascinating, who not only understood like the artistic side of it, the software side of it, but also understood what you need in terms of like actual gear to experience it. We spoke to Tamiko Teal. She's built experiential hardware and software for, 30 years.
Yeah.
And she had a really interesting take on what Meta is trying to do now.
Yeah. It's funny because she was involved in the earliest virtual worlds, like the stuff that came before Second Life. For example, I think the person she's married to created his own virtual world called Black Sun, like Black Sun, the club in Stevenson's metaverse.
It's all connected.
It's all connected, man. It's metaverses all the way down.
My husband, Peter Graff, was a co-founder of the company Black Sun Interactive, which was based in Munich and San Francisco. And they had a online virtual community called Cybertown. The problem is that most people at home did not have fast enough internet connection and also maybe didn't have a PC that was capable enough. So there was this general proclamation in 1997, VR is dead. This is VR is a pipe dream that will never be realized, et cetera, et cetera. And to 2015 or so, when maybe it was 2014, when Zuckerberg bought the nascent Oculus Rift VR helmet and proclaimed this is going to be the next big thing. So that's a really important part of the story, I think, because it shows the dynamics of these hype cycles.
And what I'd love to get your thoughts on is how the current VR landscape, which is one largely dominated by large corporations, do you still see it as a place where people can build a new reality for themselves, or is it a place where monopolists can just like microtransact us to death in a new space?
both of them are exactly true. The thing is that there are many vigorous communities involved in building ones. Of course, Zuckerberg wants us to all inhabit his, just as he wanted. Can you remember when he was trying to bring the internet to all of India, but only through a Facebook portal?
Free basics, yeah.
Yeah.
That is his view of the metaverse. And I think, a lot of people in my circle are now using Facebook really sort of with very mixed feelings about wanting to participate in Zuckerberg's empires. But the problem is that he's providing a vast infrastructure. He and other people with his wealth have the potential for providing a vast infrastructure, which makes it easy. And that's why Facebook took over in a way that the online virtual worlds didn't.
Makes sense. I have one final question. I have two final questions for you. One is more philosophical, which is, what do you think the future of virtual worlds looks like? Like, what is all this, like, to put it all together, like, what's happening in the next 10 years, 15 years, 20 years?
Where are we going? What's the next hype cycle going to look like?
Well, I think actually the whole lockdown period is an interesting sort of precursor. I think right now, as the virulence for us vaccinated people is subsiding, then people are getting back to their quote unquote real world. But if you really look at websites that talk about the climate, they say basically you should take a long haul flight like from Europe to the US only once in every 8 years, and a short haul flight like from New York down to Florida only once a year. So climate change is going to radically change our society, not 100 years in the future, not 10 years in the future, but year to year. And that might make it also much more dangerous to travel, because there's much more floods and wildfires. If you have any friends in California, you probably are up on what it's like to live with the smoke from wildfires every single summer, even if you're not actually threatened by the fire itself. So I think, frankly, that our radius for movement is going to be shrinking dramatically. And so what we experienced during the lockdown time, that we used Zoom and other teleconferencing software for a large part of our social lives, a large part of our work lives, is going to be more the case in the future. And so different versions of it, which you can call the metaverse, I think will become more and more common, just as teleconferencing became so common in the last couple of years. That's, of course, where people like Zuckerberg have a leg up. They can provide infrastructure that allows your grandmother to use the metaverse in the same way that she's now using Zoom. And so you'll have that way to communicate with her as well. And then, of course, you'll have the more artist-driven, community-driven worlds, which will be more interesting in terms of innovation, but have a higher barrier. So my 89-year-old mother might not be able to use the worlds that I create, but she can use the world that Zuckerberg will offer her.
We kind of know now what Stevenson thought you could do in an immersive world, which turns out to be apparently you can take trains different places and wait in line for a nightclub. But I think what's really interesting to look at now is what you can actually do in the metaverse that we have, which is why we've got to go to Second Life.
Yeah, Second Life is actually, it started, like we said, in 2003, but it truly is like a weird internet paradise because it's been left alone for so long. Like 2 decades, it's been left alone. And the people who live there. They maintain it. They create their own worlds. And it's absolutely fascinating.
Second Life is one of my favorite kind of internet things where a community gets left alone to their own devices.
But also with the right incentives.
It turns out you can make a lot of money in Second Life.
Yeah, there was one millionaire, Anshi Chung. Shouts to Anshi Chung. Go look that story up. There's a flying dicks. We can't get into it in this episode because we actually have to go there ourselves. but we needed a guide.
Enter Jack, or Vlad, or Nailbat, or Gremlin Kisser. Turns out people who use Second Life a lot have a lot of different usernames. He's been active on the platform for a few years, and he agreed to show Bijan and I around, even if it meant a lot of dealing with us getting lost and struggling to do basic commands on the program.
Second Life is kind of user-unfriendly, but it's like, I think the barrier to entry makes it good?
Yeah, it was less complicated than I thought it would be, but it was way more complicated than I thought it would be.
Yeah. I mean, look, I love a place where you can press F to fly.
Yeah. Although it turns out once you get flying, it's really hard to figure out how to land. Gosh, wait. So you haven't loaded yet. You're like orbs of energy for me.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, can you introduce yourself?
Oh, hi. Okay. My name is Jack, aka Gremlin Kisser in Second Life. Aka my Sona's name is Nailbat. I'm 25 years old. I am an androgynous person from the Midwest, and I'm also an artist and a Second Life creator.
Amazing. Can you describe your avatar for us?
Well, this is my persona. His name is Nailbat. He's a sort of demonic vampire bat furry, I guess. Likes to dress in a lot of emo and goth fashion.
Can you define a fursona?
Persona. It's a thing from... Jeez. It's a thing from the furry community, I guess. It's like yourself or characteristics that you wish to embody as an anthropomorphic animal character.
This is so cool. And I gotta say, I've never used Second Life before. I downloaded this like 2 days ago just to make sure it would work on my computer. This is my first time using this. This is honestly incredible. And like, I'm comfortable calling this a technological marvel. This is amazing. So I guess like this is our first time in Second Life. You're our tour guide. Like where should we go? What should we do?
Okay. It depends a little bit on what you want to see. I've got all sorts of stuff. I've got a really old 2003 furry sex club. I've got an actual art gallery, really old furry hangouts, the Bloodlines Vampire roleplay sim, reconstructions of video game worlds.
So yeah, let's go to a video game room.
So this is, I don't know the full story, but there is an older, I believe it's a Japanese video game called Kowloon's Gate. And this sim was actually made by the creators of it. It's really fun. It's kind of like a quirky, offbeat hangout. I know a lot of people who really like this sim.
Oh, so this is sort of a recreation of the Kowloon Walled City.
Yeah, that's what the game is based off of.
Oh, okay.
Which was like the densest populated space on the planet for a while before it was bulldozed.
Yes. Something of note that's interesting here also is I think that this sim is mostly built and ran by Japanese Second Life users. There's a really huge population of Japanese creators on Second Life.
What happens if I jump off the edge? Do I die?
You'll just land in the water if you go right here, and you might have to fly out. But no, there's you can't die from jumping off the edge or anything like that. There's no death in Second Life.
So I sort of wanted to describe what we're looking at here. So there's a bunch of neon signs. One says jetgraphics.com with some kanji under it. Like lots of neon signs advertising things. Oh, what is this?
So there's shops all over Kowloon City, and you're in someone's store, and all of these little cubes are like products that you can buy. They have images of the products on them.
So is this like are these like skins? Can I buy these and make my avatar these?
Yeah, I'm seeing like earrings. I think there's like some masks. If you click, usually, and it pops up this buy contents window, it will tell you what's in there. Yeah, there's like a lantern you can hold.
So here's a weird question. I have walked in the upstairs of a little store, and in the little store is like a punching bag, and then like some kind of like portrait. But when I click on the portrait, an energy beam comes out of me and goes into the portrait.
I got no clue.
Wow.
Since you can do your own scripting and animation and like make your own stuff in Second Life, people do all sorts of crazy stuff. It sounds like it's something that they have just kind of set up to do that.
Wow, this is amazing. This is truly amazing.
Yeah.
I just realized I'm a white guy in Second Life.
Yeah.
Interesting. We should describe what we're seeing. Like, this is like, it looks like a city full of alleyways and neon. It's very cyberpunk. There's just all sorts of stuff. Like, here's a shop full of body parts called Body Parts Supermarket.
So if you go to the next store, that's where you can buy anime girl avatars.
Oh yeah, the store.
What's crazy to me is like doing this. I've been to Hong Kong. I've been to Tokyo. I've been to like really dense alleyways in both cities. This feels very similar to that experience of like exploring, the Golden Guy neighborhood of Shinjuku or something. This feels very real, of just like random weird stuff that people have been putting there for years, but it's digital. It's kind of an incredible experience.
It's incredibly detailed.
Oh, there's multiple levels to this. Second Life feels very special, and something I enjoy thinking about is like, Second Life's an old game. There are objects in this game that were placed down like 10, 12, almost 20 years now, I think it's going on. There's like objects sitting in this game that are literally older than people's children, and older than people who have like graduated high school and are getting into arguments with me on Twitter. There's something very special, I think, about how objects sort of accrue in Second Life and how everything is user generated. You walk around and it's not like there's no bots that build anything, and it's not company made. It's always like someone made this object, made the texture, made the model, put it here. So everything you see in Second Life, even if it seems like it's completely abandoned, it's really old, it's just like this desolate ghost game, it's not. Someone is still paying to have that up. And there's a lot of people who are extremely attached to Second Life and will continue to like pay for their land even if they don't play the game anymore. Some people even do it out of like really like deep, how should I say this? Deep emotional reasons. Like there's actually like memorials to like dead players in Second Life and that kind of thing, and people will just pay to keep them up in perpetuity.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that is incredible. I mean, because it's a community work.
How many furries would you say are in Second Life? Or what percentage of Second Life users would you say are furries?
Definitely the furry population is huge. I would say 30 to 40% at least.
And why do you think that is?
Well, a lot of games don't let you be furries, for one thing. And I think furries just naturally kind of gravitate towards this idea of like embodying an avatar or a new persona, or like literally wanting to start over in a second life as this kind of persona that's more authentic to what they feel their true self is. And I intended to originally just kind of signed up with my partner and just kind of thought, oh, it's going to be this big abandoned digital world. We'll look around a bit and it'll be kind of funny and then we'll quit. It turned out Second Life was not actually dead. It was still very active. When I started building my avatar and realized, like, shit, all these characters and worlds I've had in my head, like, I can actually build these now. Like, I can visualize it. I'm never going to be, like, a game developer, but all this stuff I've fantasized about, I can make it in this game. And if I can get super personal as well, the thing that I think finally, like, really drew me in was the fact that I could make my avatar really be explicitly transgender. Because that's not something that you're able to historically do in games. It's getting better nowadays. But in Second Life, you can be really explicit with it, given that there's, adult sims and that kind of thing, and you can attach genitalia to your avatar. But there's also the fact that you can go on the store, you can buy, like, add-ons for your avatar that will give you, like, top surgery scars and that kind of thing. So it was just, like, really liberating, especially after playing other MMOs. And it's, like, you can kind of have this idea your character is transgender and tell other people in roleplay, but they don't let you actually do it. There's no, like, confirming, validating, like, data or something in the official systems that you can do that would be like, hey, this character is transgender and he uses this pronouns and, presents this kind of way. In Second Life, you can just do that. So it was just, like, a really big, significant moment, I guess, for me, to realize I could actually do that with my avatars and just kind of be the way I wanted to be.
That's really beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, and you came here not even expecting that. You didn't know. It was just for a goof.
Yeah, it was just like, and because it's like also silly, you get in here and it's like, oh, people put penises on their avatar and that kind of thing, and it's all silly. And then it's like, it suddenly becomes not silly, and you're like, oh.
Should we go to a different world? Let's see some furry stuff.
Yeah, let's do it. I want to see the furry sex dungeon.
So, we're gonna go to, it's the GYC, which I believe stands for Gay Yiff Club.
Okay.
One of the oldest furry sims, I believe, or at least one of the most iconic that's been around forever. I will give you a PSA. There's gonna be people here, and they will probably say hi to you.
All right, here we go. Teleporting. Well, this is cool. So this is like shops out here?
Yeah.
And then-
In front of us is the club entrance. It's like a teleporter, and then behind us is like shops. It's a mall where different creators, you can kind of rent out a little stall here and just put up everything you have for sale in there, and people will browse it.
Got it. This is kind of wild, man. I'm looking at some naked furries, man.
Oh yeah, there's a vagina over there too.
There's models of vaginas. There's extra titties you can get. You can get like different kinds.
This is Psycorp, who makes a lot of the furry genitalia and some avatar parts for Second Life.
This is honestly kind of incredible.
There is a small chance they will think you are both trolls and kick you out of the club, and I'm hoping that doesn't happen. But the cards will fall where they may.
Oh, wow. This is a furry sex club. Yeah, this is...
Yeah, I wasn't lying. It's a furry sex club.
You were not lying, yeah. There's like a big naked dragon. Hey, bro, I have wings too. Check it out. Check out my wings.
Oh, yeah, I see the dragon.
Oh, I got booted. I'm too young of an account, so I got kicked out.
Yeah, they might do that.
Wow. I got kicked out of the furry sex club. Wow.
I'm still in here. Wow, there are a lot of dragons here.
That's a bummer. I got kicked out.
We're different. There's pole dancers.
Yep.
Yo.
Oh, yeah. That's a thing people do for money on here, actually. They probably have a box that lets you give them money as, like, a tip.
Incredible. This is actually sick. There's Connect 4 back here.
Oh, yeah, they have games and stuff, usually. Going to sex clubs to play, like, Connect 4 and Cards Against Humanity is very common in Second Life, actually.
You know, it's weird that it's weird that it's not as common in real life. You'd think that, like, you know, people would figure out more fun ways to have a good time at a sex club.
Oh boy, there's the animations available on this couch are cuddle, foreplay, oral, kisses, sex.
Wow.
But all of these animations are attached to the couch. So I'm just sitting here.
I think we've seen enough. I think
you've seen one naked jaguar man on a pole. You've seen them all.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is really incredible. So I guess, like, what do you think the future has in store for Second Life? Do you see more people adopting this platform itself and platforms like it? Do you see it kind of just staying the way it is? Like, what happens next to this world?
That's a good question. One thing I'm certain of is that it's going to keep going basically forever. I think the past 10 years, people keep saying Second Life's going to die soon, and then it doesn't. So I think it's definitely staying where it is. Because part of what makes a virtual world like this, like, really, really great is the history invested in it. You know, it's a lot harder to hop into, like, a brand new program and really feel like you're part of something when it's just, like, there's nothing there yet, you know? Or it's perhaps a little actually more regulated than Second Life, and you get this sort of almost soulless corporate thing going to it. So I think Second Life's going to keep enduring. I think more people are getting into this idea of, like, a virtual world, or whatever you want to call it. And I think that they're going to try to improve and upgrade it however they can.
I've accidentally taken off my entire outfit. So
I see that.
Bijan has followed up your beautiful statement with becoming completely naked in Second Life.
I see that, and you're still dancing.
I don't know how to fix that. I don't know how to stop dancing, though.
Bijan, you're in the metaverse. You don't have to stop dancing.
Thank you, Ryan. And thank you, Jack.
All right. Did we do it? Did we figure out what the metaverse is, or will become, or was? I don't know. Bijan, do you feel like you're a metaversal expert now?
Yes and no, because I think the thing that all of this has emphasized for me is how not new any of this is.
Yeah.
Like basically there's been one original vision, kind of Neil Stephenson, kind of, the people in Second Life, and the technology has only been getting better. It's like it's a concept that exists that is being built out, and that's the whole thing. Like we're just seeing better metaverses, but it's the same original concept.
It is interesting how it's been over 30 years now with this concept existing. And yet we're still coming back to the same ideas, using it for the same things, which is both a little frustrating and also kind of beautiful in a weird way, where it's like the minute human beings got the ability to interact with each other in a virtual space, we decided on a couple key things we all really cared about, and we really haven't moved on beyond that, which I find kind of heartwarming. To bring it all the way back to the beginning of the episode, it's not dissimilar from the impetus that went into like building that statue of Captain America. Sometimes things that aren't real can feel super real when you put meaning behind them. And I feel like our time in Second Life was spent just seeing these weird pockets of internet space that have serious meaning behind them, even though they're all kind of goofy.
Cyberspace is interesting because it's a place that we create with other people, and you can't really do it by yourself. Like you have to have somebody visiting your website or your world in Second Life or your place in VR chat. Cyberspace depends on other people. You have to have somebody else.
There's like this really wonderful thing that ties kind of all of the stops on our journey this week together, which is that like whether we're in a furry sex club or we're at a shopping mall asking people about Mark Zuckerberg, or we're being dabbed on by gigantic Kermit the Frogs in a different VR program, these are all ways to connect with people, and they're not like cool, but they're also very cool.
Yeah, they're not cool, but they're also very cool. I mean, the whole point of the internet is to be with other people. It's beautiful.
And you know, the idea of using the internet to leave little gifts for each other, I think it's very easy to forget about all of that when we're talking about the venture capitalists, the Silicon Valley monopolists, this very top-down idea of being online. But at the end of the day, you take all that stuff away, all the creepy dudes in hoodies, you get rid of them, and what are you left with? Very enthusiastic furries.
The building blocks of the internet, the cornerstone, the only people we can't do without.
My major question going into this episode was, can Zuckerberg succeed? Can Meta's idea of the metaverse succeed? And I have come away with basically one coherent thought about that, which is that they are probably going to succeed in the short term and absolutely implode in the long term. I don't see the weirdos and the freaks and the artists and the strange internet users who have been on these platforms forever really letting go, and I don't see normal people becoming that kind of subculture, and I don't see them meeting.
It's interesting that you said, because like my feeling is like, yeah, sure, Zuckerberg will win, but the thing that's going to happen is like normal users are going to pervert whatever space he's tried to create. Like they're going to circumvent whatever controls he's put in place
every time.
The thing about the Zuckerberg metaverse is like, yeah, sure, like you can corporatize virtual space, but those freaks are going to freak up your platform. Like Facebook is a hellhole of content incentives, but like there are some genuine freaks on there. Like the people who are like the teens who love transit, and like the people role playing as ants, like that shit still exists on Facebook.
Plus, like Zuckerberg has never created a system that hasn't been exploited. You saw this with Facebook, where they create a viral video product that suddenly just turns into like really bizarre, terrible short form video. You see this with Instagram right now, where Reels become very important, and all of a sudden you just get like scammy and spammy Reels videos. Imagine what that will look like in VR when it becomes important enough for people to start trying to hijack it. Like, yeah. I don't see anything that Mark Zuckerberg touches lasting in a good way in the long term, because I think he fundamentally doesn't understand, and the people who work for him don't understand, that the internet has to be a bottom up process. It can't be a top down process.
And I think that's the lesson that I think we've learned as like people who have been online for so long. You can't dictate what a platform is like from the top down. You can only provide the like incentives one way or another, and people will do what they do.
I think what's really nice about everything we've experienced this week is that the people with all the money and power are really frustrated and spending a lot of time and energy to get headsets into people's hands and on people's faces and build apps that we can spend our money on and really make us believe that this is the future. So much so that they've changed their name from Facebook to Meta.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, there's a couple kids selling furry avatars and making a living expressing themselves. Or there's old artists from the 90s that are using the internet to basically have a acid trip without the LSD. There are these people who have been making small publications to cover internet culture in a way that matters to them. This DIY aesthetic survives every hype cycle. And I love how funny that is. I love how like great a testament that is to just like the mechanical bull ride of nonsense that is the internet.
Oh, I like the idea that there's some motor under there like spinning us around because we decided to get on the fucking bull. It's like, it's got no horns. It doesn't have legs. It can't be that dangerous.
Exactly. So this is the first episode of our show, AFK. We called it AFK, one, because Bijan and I are geriatric millennials that remember using that. We remember using that term on AOL Instant Messenger. But that term also means away from keyboard. And one thing that we want to do with this show is remind you as often as possible that the internet isn't just images on your screen in front of your keyboard. It's the people behind their screen. It's the people outside trying to do things. It's the wires, the cables, the tubes. It's larger than just your experience alone. It's your experience with other people. And that's, at least in my opinion, what the show is about.
Yeah. No. I mean, great poetry, Ryan. That's beautiful. I agree.
Thank you. It's not just the tubes. It's all the other stuff.
It's not just the tubes. There are people on the other end of those tubes. We're connecting our tubes together, passing information back and forth forever. Cue the music.
Sweet release of death. My favorite.
Wait a minute, is this just the void?
AFK is a production of Campside Media. It's hosted by me, Bijan Stephen.
And me, Ryan Broderick. We're produced by Alan Haburchak, and our theme song is by Happy Birthday, Mr. Baskets. I found it on TikTok, and I think it absolutely slaps. Executive producers are Bijan Stephen and me.
Who are you? That's Ryan Broderick. The executive producers at Campside Media are Matt Shayer, Adam Hoff, Josh Dean, and Vanessa Gregoriadis. I'm on Twitter and Twitch at Bijan Stephen, and on Instagram as Bijan Cakes.
And you can find my very unfortunate Twitter account at Broderick, and my even more unfortunate Instagram at Ryan Hates This. Make sure you follow AFK on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and leave us a 5-star review. Don't leave us anything other than a 5-star review. Don't even waste your time.
True.
And then maybe go outside afterwards. We'll be out there too. I promise. It's better if you spend some time away from the internet every once in a while.
That's right. All right, go on. Get AFK yourself already. Maybe we'll see you there. If not, catch you next time.